And you have raised your hand.
Hi, Fundis.
Hi, Mazigo. Ayanda, you're calling me on WhatsApp.
Yeah, how many people have joined so far? I haven't seen. I'm not seeing people here.
No, Ayanda is managing the platform. Ayanda, let me just take a call.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Mazigo. Mazigo?
Yes, I can hear you.
No. Ayanda is just getting
Should we start?
people. So we'll have a little bit of it. No.
Mm.
I'm saying Ayanda is having people
Okay.
admitted. She's getting people admitted. So
Okay.
I think, what time is it now?
The time.
12:03.
Yes.
Let's give it another 7 minutes. At 10 past, we will start.
Okay.
Because I'll be
So
the one kickstarting the engagement,
okay.
just to introduce you.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
All right. Mr. Hisbon Maziko Matema.
Thank you.
It's always ready. I think those that are still going to join will join us. We don't want to abuse people who have respected time by disrespecting them.
Thank you.
So you just tell me when it is 10, when it is 10 past. Is
Okay.
it, are we on the same timeline with Malawi?
In Malawi, yes. This is 8 past, 2 minutes to go. We have only 2 minutes remaining. A minute.
Huh?
It's almost 9 past
Okay.
12.
Tell me at 10 past.
Okay, a minute
No,
to
tell
go.
me at 10 past, we then start.
Okay.
All right.
It's 10 minutes to go.
They said we must put our videos on me and you when we talk because it is also televised as it is being recorded to be played on our YouTube platform. So audio visual is necessary. Colleagues, welcome. Good morning. Good afternoon. It's 10 minutes after midday in South Africa and in Malawi. Lilongwe, that's where Mr. Hisbon Matema is based. With a smile. My name is Fundisa. I'm the Sherpa for the C20, and my task is very easy and simple. It is really to do that is dealing with the issues that he will outline. I don't want to steal the thunder from him. He will take us through work that he has done. Unfortunately, or fortunately for him, those that were provided as the co-leads ran away, but he took on this responsibility, bringing in voices of many others who made contribution and driving this process alone. So we're most grateful that he didn't say, I'm alone, I can't do it. He said, with it. So he'll be presenting to you what he has consolidated, which is inputs from many different actors and role players. And I'm sure there are others that he was working with that he will also probe to come on board and engage on the issues. So my task ends here by introducing him and welcoming you all. He will drive this ship and outline how he wants it to be done once he done with the presentation of the policy brief that will be consolidated into our policy pack as the C20. So without much ado, Mr. Matemba, I am leaving the reins to you. I am leaving this ship for you to drive forward, and we look at getting everything from you. I saw a message coming. Colleagues, we are just polishing documents because there were different writers, 14 different writers, and the way in which they package the document is different. So we're packaging them to be the same way. These are the policy briefs, and we will be putting them on our website. So there is an editorial process that is happening, not the content, but the style, so that they all look the same. So by tomorrow, we will have all the documents available on our website under the category of working groups. You will find it all there. And we will also outline if you want to make further inputs, which will come back to Mr. Matema for him to consider whether they are bringing something they have already not covered. They will incorporate that into our fourth and final draft of this particular process. So we have heard from ourselves as members of the various working groups. We are hearing from others that may not have participated in the process. I leave you in the capable hands of Mr. Maziko Matemba, our working group facilitator from very far away in Lilongwe, in Malawi. Over to you, Mr. Matemba.
Thank you so much, Chair Mabalane, for that, and also for giving us opportunity to contribute to the South African presidency on the G20 in the spirit of solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Allow me to present in our group. I want to appreciate the contribution from different stakeholders who are in our grouping, group number 7, but also our coordinator, Basandwa, but also Anne, also contributed towards, and also Greer, who has been also supporting in getting feedback from different stakeholders. We have received a number of comments on our policy brief, and allow me to share with you what we have come up with as we trying to consolidate for presentation to the committee, but also to the South African government for consideration. Likely in our group, I think South Africa presidency has prioritized our our area of sustainable our area of sustainable and resilient communities on the risk disaster reduction, which is, I think, one of the area which also was identified in the last G20 in Brazil, and the South African government is also want to speak to this because it's very important. Allow me to share with you just in brief on over the overview, which I think is important for us to have also so that all of us were in the same page. Over the 5 years or more, the world has been experiencing various climate change disasters, displacement of people, loss of lives, damage to infrastructure, including drought, floods, and disease outbreaks. Also, human and also wildlife conflicts, and where sectors on human capital development are affected. The development of support to global, national, and community disaster resilient policy and strategies is a key enabler in achieving climate change, sustainability, mitigation, adaptation, and loss of damage. So, disaster risk reduction framework, which is enshrined in the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, that is 2020, 2015, 2030, provides provides a guidance to national government for broader provision for sustainable development, disaster risk reduction. In Africa, where currently the G20 is being hosted by South African presidency for the first time, we want to congratulate South African government for that. The countries are committed under the African Union Africa Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction and Action Plan, including the SADC Disaster Risk Reduction Strategy and Fund. On resilience, it is also important to appreciate that one of the key elements we're also trying to address in our policy brief is on resilience. It is the ability to sustain community and or society that is exposed to hazards and to resist and absorb and accommodate and recover from effects of and also addressing issues timely and efficiently. So, in brief, our grouping or our group also trying to address that issues of disaster risk reduction, which is aimed at providing new and reducing existing disaster risks and managing residual risk of all which contribute to the strengthening of resilience, therefore achieving the sustainable development goals. So, in a nutshell, some of the framework which we have drive our contribution towards our policy brief. One, the international instrument. We have the Malabo Declaration 2014 that will accelerate agriculture and growth, food and cash reserves during disasters. Maputo Declaration 2023, which talks of calls government to support and take active role in ensuring that people area warning units and structures are in place in different structures. So these are some of the things which we just wanted to highlight, but also we have the SADC Vision 2050 and also the Sendai Protocol, including the African Union Convention, which deals with refugees and other displaced communities. So it also be important just to give you a brief before I go to my presentation, just to share with you what the role of civil society and communities is to support in terms of mobilization of resources and advocate for vulnerable communities so that they're being supported in this fact. So as the working group, we're also trying to have to make sure that civil society and the youth, the people with the disabilities and others are also being considered. So, as I have shared, that our grouping some of the priorities is as follows. The group 7, some of the key challenges which we have found, and I think the issues which we want to address in our policy brief. One is on coordination, which all those frameworks also has highlighted, either at global, regional, and also national. A challenge is on the siloed disaster risk reduction policies affecting the coordination and also issues of gaps in governance, that is an availability of strengthening disaster risk governance and management, limited integration and urban planning, and one of the key challenges of limited integration into urban to inform planning and the policy guidance, and issues of financing resilience, which is also one of the key issues which we identify as a key challenge, is in accessing adaptable finance for disaster risk reduction for local initiatives. So, and next slide, please. So, those are some of the key challenges which we also identify, but also another challenge which we also identify in our group for consideration to the South African presidency when they'll be discussing at the G20 is issues of technology opportunities and risks. That risk for tech access, inequality, and role of GIS, artificial intelligence, AI, but also issues of data, community data mapping, which I think we thought there was a challenge in availability of routine community data mapping to inform policy and action. So those are some of the key challenges which we identify in our group that we thought that the South African presidency should continue and continuing to the Brazilian presidency. Next, please. Next slide. Yes, so as I shared earlier, that the disaster risk reduction, the DRR working group, which is I think is derived from the Brazil presidency, but also the India presidency, but also South African government, thought it stood that should be a priority for discussion because looking at the issues of climate challenges and also other challenges, it just prioritized some of the key priorities which were agreed under the two presidencies. Next slide, please. So the key next slide. So the key priorities which were identified in the two presidencies, that is in India but also Brazil, are as follows. Is priority number one is addressing inequality and reducing vulnerabilities, global coverage of area warning systems, and disaster resilient infrastructure, financing in DRR, but also disaster recovery, rehabilitation, and construction. And number six, priority is ecosystem-based approaches for uh, DRR, the nature-based solutions. So those are some of the key areas which it has derived our policy brief in addressing issues of climate change and resilience to communities. Next slide, please. And yes, so these are some of the key issues which we felt it is important. And our policy brief to G20, we have special asks to our leaders at the G20. They will be convening in November. One of the things which we feel is important for consideration is to embed disability inclusion in all global disaster risk reduction policy frameworks, because we noted that including at the Sendai framework implementation reviews, it was identified that there was a challenge in terms of inclusion. So we felt inclusion is a very important, more especially people with disabilities, including gender, women, and other communities. But also operationalization of the 15% of the 15 principle. Under the global disaster risk reduction, there was the make mention that we need to make sure that there's adequate financing for disaster, climate adaptation, which we feel that countries need to at least 15% principle, which we feel that the South African government through its presidency to the G20 leaders, you need to consider that this is implemented in terms of financing. But also issues of global support a global innovation fund. We feel that funding is important. That there was a make mention in the previous presidencies that the support to global innovation fund to support issues of climate change and resilience in supporting communities and other disadvantaged groups, but also issues of mandate to disaggregate global reporting data. Data also came as an issue, which even in our review of different frameworks and also reporting in our different in Africa, but also other countries that I think that one is supposed to be done so that the countries are ready to make way to mitigate effect of climate change in supporting communities better. But also issues of championing the leadership of the global south. We are happy that South Africa is the presidency for the first time in Africa for G20. We thought that south to south, and we hope that south to south learning from the South African presidency on resilient disaster risk reduction. We hope that other countries also learn from each other, so that we should begin to adapt to issues of climate mitigation, but others looking at our environment as well. Because reading through other frameworks, but which other countries are developing, including the Malawi framework, they're also talking of issues of cross country learning, but also south to south learning. Next slide, please. Another. Yeah. So some of the key issues which we summarize, looking at those challenges and also the areas which I has already shared before, we believe that issues of governance reforms is critical, that the South African presidency need to look into seriously on how do we include issues of inclusion, civil society, youth, people living with disabilities, and other marginalized groups. And this has to come because of the framework. So we believe that the governance reforms, making sure that the frameworks which have been developed in countries, but also the commitments which have been made, I think all groups are being accommodated as required. And this will require the support from the UN, the governments, and also civil society and other groups. Another issue was investment priorities. This we are talking of issues of finance. Private sector engagement in supporting this initiative is also critical and important. That has to be included. We are talking of issues of financing for DRR, but also other financing. Currently, the 15% principle is not implemented in most of the countries, even most of the developing countries. So it is important that we civil society were also pushing that during the South African presidency, if indeed countries hasn't committed yet, I think they now have to make enough investment into this area, because the disasters are here to stay and countries need to adapt and be able to respond to it. Issues of legal and policy instruments, we feel that it has to be inclusive and make sure that there have been legal reforms in different areas, making sure that the issues which have been highlighted are adaptable, but also issues of ensuring that there's adequate support system, looking at the legal framework from different countries, either at country, regional, but also at global level. Another slide, please. Yes, issues of programmatic action. We believe that all these frameworks, they will be meaningless if countries are not implementing all these issues which we have raised in this area. That we believe that programmatic action each country need to have. I'm hoping the South African presidency will ensure, and we hope that countries will be able to share what they have done so far to make sure that whatever it was agreed at Sendai framework at the UN and other frameworks, the Malabo, the Maputo, the AU in Kampala, all those are also being implemented fully. But also issues of disaster recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. This important area, because when you have a disaster, for example, we had this cyclone in Southern Africa where it affected many countries, including South Africa, Malawi, Mozambique, and others. I think issues of reconstruction was a big issue. So we believe, I think it should be enabling environment or financing, make sure that when these disasters strike, I think our countries are resilient, but also communities have been protected so that they don't suffer, more especially people who are disabled because of those disasters. They also did be recovered. Yeah, so issues of early warning is very important, because for you to mitigate issues of disaster, you need to have early warning systems. Our meteorological capacities and in countries need to be robust and quick to respond and even to report. I'll give an example for Malawi. When we had the cyclone, for example, when we have cyclone, I think one of the things which we managed to mitigate was because that the country was able to adapt and receive meteorological data, area warning, which I think supported the country to avoid further damage. So area warning units, making sure that it's robust, is also supported, is also critical in this area. And we hope the South African presidency, they also need to consider that this is well financed, supported, and also there is a capacity for people to have all those warning signs. Next. Yes, so we have derived all these conversation through different frameworks at global and international level, but also looking at examples on effects of climate change. For example, the Malabo Declaration 2014, the Maputo Declaration 2023, with the SADC Vision 2015, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015-2030, the African Union Convention on Protection of Refugees in Kampala. So these are some of the frameworks which we have derived, and we hope that some of the asks which we have asked, it will be considered for discussion at the G20 in South Africa. And we hope you, as colleagues in the civil society, communities, private sector, government, we're able to pick our issues, which we feel are very important, so that we mitigate the effect of climate change, make sure that it's sustainable and resilient, and communities are being protected. Thank you so much. This is what we wanted to share with you. Maybe you have any question and others. And I don't know if Mike, our chair, you are still around to say something. Over. Colleagues, do you have any question, any reflection to what we have presented on group number 7 on sustainable and resilient communities and risk reduction? Thank you. Thank you, Prudence. Ayanda?
Yeah. Good day, colleagues. Thank you for this presentation. I think it goes very well with the task at hand. My name is Prudence. I am a circular economy and sustainability expert. I run a foundation that is about enhancing inclusive sustainability, and climate adaptation is at the center of it because everything leads down to it. So I have one input, might not necessarily be to be added on the document, but for us in the group, I understand that we also mentioned on that page, I don't recall what page number, that the government needs to come with frameworks on how we are going to enable communities to be included into making these adaptation plans and strategies. So I think there's a huge need for us as civil society organizations that are in these different countries in Africa to have a network, a connection, so that it can be much easier for us to connect as to who is doing what and how far are we as to the adaptation strategies into leading up to submitting the adaptation plan of action. Because I did my research, and South Africa to be specific, South Africa last submitted the National Adaptation Plans of Action in 2021. So, I also understand that as civil society organizations working throughout Africa, we need to have that connect, even in South Africa, as local to provincial government or society. So I think we need, so we are hosting, our foundation is hosting an event on the 24th of October on International Climate Action Day. This is just an event to start the conversation, get the civil society members to start thinking about how it really affects them, climate. Then it will lead us to them realizing that there are strategies that they can come up with, and then we assist them into implementing those strategies. So this work can build up if we do it, but we need to have a network as implementers on the ground. So I'd like to get maybe email addresses that I can send the invite to, and then maybe we can start building the network going forward. But let us please attend maybe like this event so we can just start the conversation and find out who is really doing what, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prudence. I think that's welcome. send your on the group to Ayanda. I agree with you that we need to have a network, because even here when I was doing a research in my country, Malawi, we found that the policy has been developed, and there's indication of engagement of other stakeholders. But the question is, how far are they engaged? So having a network of civil society organizations who are doing climate change adaptation, I think it will be critical at this stage, most especially that now the South African presidency, when the presidency goes to the ES next year, we need to demonstrate that we're able to follow the plans, policies which we have developed, and the civil society is a better place to bring accountability to the commitments and others. So I agree with you. Share with your contacts so that when you have your meeting in October on the 24th, others can also join in and also see how we can support this conversation moving forward towards the actual G20 summit. Thank you, Prudence. Another taker? We have heard from Prudence from Africa Sustainability.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Tulani from a company called Friends in Disaster Risk Reduction Africa. Thank you for the presentation, a very nice, presentation, very informative. I like the part that we don't leave people with disability behind. So we have to be very, very inclusive. So what I want to emphasize in our like this platform, can you please request for us to promote the IDRR Day as is coming on the 13th of October? Can we please use this platform to promote International Disaster Risk Reduction Day so that people can share awareness? So we need to be big on awareness so that we can build up for better resilience in the future. So the 13th of October is IDRR Day. Let us announce it in this platform. Let's make sure that all communities, they do celebrate that and they are very well informed about International Disaster Risk Reduction Day in the whole world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tulan. That's most important. And also deriving from Prudence, I think, yes, indeed, let's have that on 13th of October. Tulan and Bertha, please take note of that so that we can be able to share. And being the day, I think it will be important that we keep on sharing as we're building the momentum for the actual G summit and the other civil society summit. So thanks so much, Tulan, for that. Thank you. Any other taker? We are getting very good comments and also suggestions on how we move forward with our agenda. Any taker, you can just start speaking if you are ready. Thank you. Thank you so much. What I'm getting that we need to take advantage of the moment. We have the moment on the 30th of October. Yes, you can go ahead.
You just need a bit of patience. You should have just asked for another one.
Do you have any taker? We had Tulani and we had Prudence. Colleagues on the line, it's your time. Yes, I'll just emphasize on the point that let's keep this conversation going. This is the first series of our webinars where we'll be sharing and shaping up our policy brief. Issues of disability are coming very clearly because I think most people are affected during disasters, and issues of networking, making sure that we have a strong accountability mechanism amongst our PSOs so that the commitments which are made being implemented. So those are key issues which are coming very clear. And this also build our policy brief as we finalize it. Any taker? I can't hear any more comments from the team. I hope our presentation from group number 7 was clear on sustainable and resilient communities and risk disaster reduction. As I mentioned that this is not the first, we'll be having series of these. And once the team has finalized the cleaning up of our policy